Well, at least we know who's good now, mostly. What's up, everybody? Well, God bless. I hope you all are having a great week. And with that, let's get right into this week's power rankings. Cleveland Browns. Yeah, this is a bad team. I don't think they're quite bad enough that you can put them in the tanking tier. After all, they just beat who is most likely a playoff team, barring a loss to a bad Ravens team. But this is still not a team that I think is very good. But at this point, they can't really get a good draft pick. So they're kind of a just bad team. Actually, I'm going to put them in the tanking tier because at this point, the tanking tier is just the worst of the worst teams. And at this point, the Browns are part of that club, as are the New York Giants. The Giants basically sold any chance they had of the number one overall pick with a dominant 34 to 10 win. And for the Giants, at this point, they're just going to have to settle for the second overall pick in the draft. The Los Angeles Rams, I think, are a maybe borderline elite team. I think their loss to Atlanta, who is a mediocre team, was just an example of a team that just didn't show up until the second half. And when you don't play two halves of football, you're not going to win. And for the Falcons, they just did enough to win the game. And they secured one of the biggest upsets of a very upset heavy week. The Seattle Seahawks were not one of those teams that got upset, and they were able to take care of business against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. And overall, it was a pretty good day for Seattle. They now have a date with San Francisco in San Francisco to determine the number one seed in the NFC. And man, that is going to be cinema. I know as a Lions fan, for the one seed games are super fun. The New Orleans Saints, though, they are not a tanking team per se. They're definitely playing better, but they're just a bad team. I mean, Tyler Shuck looks like their guy, and you want to see that for Atlanta. You want to see them have their guy and have confidence in their guy. But moving forward, they're going to need to start finding new ways to what's the word? Improve and get better. And long term, they'd want to build around Tyler Shuck, but he's going to need another year to prove that he is their guy. The New York Jets are definitely a tanking team. And I wouldn't say they're quite Giants bad, but things are still pretty bad. They got whooped by an elite team in the New England Patriots, and it was just kind of ugly all around. As for the Bengals, they were doing the whooping as they complete. What did I just say? Anyway, they completely dominated the Arizona Cardinals, and it wasn't really that close. Their offense is showing up, but at this point, it's just kind of too little too late. As for the Carolina Panthers, they're just not consistent whatsoever. And that is not a good thing that you want from a playoff team. But at this point, they have a for the division game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Saturday. And hey, if you win that game, you get your first winning record in like years and you win the NFC South. What more could you really want? The Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to say they're a good but not great team. But man, that wasn't the most inspiring effort against the Patriots. But man, that game against Green Bay was really a statement to how back this team actually is and to how back Derrick Henry is. He had 4 touchdowns on Saturday, and it was just impressive. There was nothing to dislike from their win over Green Bay. And now they have a date with Pittsburgh to decide the AFC North winner, and that will be cinema. The Miami Dolphins are a mid team, and I think that is a very easy statement to make. They did beat the Buccaneers, who are probably about equally trending downwards as they are. Or actually, I wouldn't say the Dolphins are trending downwards, but yeah, they beat a team that has now lost 8 of their last 10 games. It's not the most impressive thing in the world, but you do like the effort that you're seeing from this Dolphins team, and Mike McDaniel really needs them to play well in order to keep his job. The Texans are definitely either a borderline elite or elite team. I'm going to put them at borderline elite for now, but this is definitely a team that you do not want to face in January because of their playoff experience. I'd say elite teams are more like Denver and New England, but the Texans are also there. I mean, for the Broncos, like they have the best record in the conference. They have a win and you're the number one seed situation against I don't even know who. I think it's the Chargers, but hey, it's whatever. And for the Patriots, you clinched your division, and for the first time in 6 years. Now, don't go saying that you were tortured for the last 6 years, because let's be real, you had 20 years of dominance before that. So just hold your horses for a minute. But overall, pretty good season. Drake May is kind of your guy. Man, that rolled off the tongue really weird, but we got it done. And man, you guys are pretty good this year. As for the Eagles, this is definitely just a borderline elite team. I mean, there are definitely some things to like for this Eagles team. It definitely seems like their offense is getting better. But at the end of the day, you want them to be consistent. And it didn't seem like their offense really showed up that much against a pretty good Bills team. And you don't like to see that. The Steelers, I'm still going to put them in the good but not great tier. And I'm going to put them actually just below Baltimore because of Baltimore's overall experience. And they have a must win game against Baltimore. But if you ask me, I would take Pittsburgh because they're at home, even though this is not really a predictions video. But I'm just saying, I think the Steelers do get it done at home. But I would look out for the Steelers and Ravens, either one, if they get into the playoffs. I mean, if the Steelers get into the playoffs, I wouldn't be too concerned. But if the Ravens get into the playoffs, then you really don't want to play them because they are really experienced and really hungry for a Super Bowl. As are the Buffalo Bills, who find themselves in the borderline elite tier, right behind the team they just lost to. And I think for the Bills, that was a very frustrating game for them as they lost what was a very winnable game due to a failed 2-point conversion. And you just hate to see it, but at the end of the day, they have a wild card spot locked up. There isn't that much to play for this week. Besides, they're playing a terrible team, so it doesn't really matter that much. As for the Titans, I mean, their loss doesn't really matter a whole lot either. They're still a tanking team, still trying to find their identity. And overall, improvement from Cam Ward is what you want this year. And he has shown improvement at the very least. My Detroit Lions. I'm gonna have to give in at this point. The Lions are mid. Like, they're not good. They're not a good team. At this point, we are just mid, and I have to give in at this point and just admit it. 5, no, 6 turnovers in a must-win game against Minnesota. I don't care how mediocre Minnesota is. They're playing a backup QB. That was a must-win game, and we were not able to deliver. It's kind of a summary of how disappointing this season was. And the Lions are going to have to start looking forward to next year because this was not our year whatsoever. However, the Jaguars, this has been a pretty good year for them, and you have to admit that because, man, the Jaguars are just rolling and rolling. A nice win over the Colts that I think secured the AFC South, and overall, it was a really nice week to be a Jaguars fan because, my gosh, they're gonna host a playoff game most likely, and that is gonna be cinema for Jacksonville. As for the Dallas Cowboys, they are mid. They are pretty mid. And as for if I can get Dallas to move over here into this spot, I mean, for Dallas, I mean, you're trying to figure out what you have and what to look forward to for the future. But Dallas fans, it's just another year of mediocrity. San Francisco 49ers. I'm actually going to go ahead and say they're an elite team. The way that this team has continued to persevere and continue to get better and just continue to grind through all of the injuries and that they find themselves here with a spot to win the NFC West and the number one seed is just a testament to how good of a job Shanahan has done with this team. It's just impressive, really. As for the Chicago Bears, they're also an elite team. And man, Sunday Night Football was just a beautiful game. I mean, I love games where it's just 90% offense, 10% defense. And this game was right up my alley. It was amazing. And at the end of the day, the 49ers got it done, so I have to put them above the Bears. And it was a good game for the Bears, too. Caleb Williams looked great. But at the end of the day, they were not able to get the job done to get the win. So they get slightly below the 49ers. Minnesota. We're going to put them right above my Detroit Lions. And good job to Minnesota's defense for taking advantage of all the mistakes that the Detroit Lions made. And in general, good job, Minnesota. As for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're also pretty mid, and I'm also going to have to drop them down here in this mid tier if I could actually find a way to drag them. But at this point for Tampa Bay, they still have a must win game this week, and I'm actually going to put them in the good but not great tier. If I could move them, yes, I'm going to put them in the good but not great tier because unlike all the mid teams here, they still have a shot at the postseason. And really, I'm going to put all the teams that still have a shot at the postseason at the good but not great tier or better. And As for Tampa Bay, even with them losing 8 of their last 10 games, they still have a shot at the postseason with a win over Carolina. And that's really all you can ask for is just a spot open for them at the end of the day. And that's what they got. And you got to be somewhat content if you are a Buccaneers fan that you still have a shot at the playoffs after all of this. The Kansas City Chiefs are a bad team. And I genuinely mean that. They are really, really bad. And it's kind of I wouldn't say it's funny because what's happened to Casey is like partly tragic, partly hilarious, but this has just not been the Chiefs' year whatsoever. It hasn't been the Raiders' year ever, or ever. During this year, it was never the Raiders' year. But the Raiders have basically completely locked up the number one overall pick, and Mendoza, you are most likely a Raider at this point. The Colts, I mean, they are just a mid team. I mean, at this point, they've now lost like what 6, maybe 7 of their last 8, and yeah, it's been a really disappointing finish to the year. Philip Rivers tried, but he was not able to save what was just a lost cause of a second half for the Colts. As for the Commanders, this whole season was really a lost cause. And in general, there's basically nothing to like in DC whatsoever. And it's kind of tragic how a team that was in the NFC Championship game a year ago suddenly went from a contender to a team that needs to completely retool basically overnight. And it's really tragic and I don't think literally anybody expected the massive fall off that was this Commanders team. As for the Cardinals, well, if people were betting on the Cardinals, then, well, that's their fault because they were never, ever going to be a real threat to win anything. Because at this point, we should all realize that the Cardinals are just kind of a mediocre team, and that's kind of what they've always been. And as for the Chargers, they're actually not a bad team this year. I'm going to put them in the borderline elite tier. And the reason for that is even though they lost to the Texans, who are a fellow borderline elite team, they kept it close, and a bunch of mistakes ultimately kept them from winning the game. And I think if they can cut back on mistakes, they might be able to take care of some teams in January. As for the Packers, they want to get healthy. That's the main thing for them. And if they can't do that, then they're really just cooked. But I think if Jordan Love can come back for the playoffs, then they might have a shot to take down either Philly or Chicago in the playoffs. But thank you for watching. God bless. And with that,
Peace!